Hello, Internet, and welcome to my review for Attack on Titan episode 42. When we last left off, Hanji and Flegel had tricked the MPs into revealing that they were the ones who would kill Demo, and then Erwin was brought before his trial for, in front of the king, leaving us where we leave off for this week's episode. As Erwin initially has to present his reasons of why the head noble, who I'm sure has a name but has not actually really been named, I don't think, should not just execute him right then and there. And Erwin presents this whole future that, like, if anything happens to the scouts and Walrose falls, you know, everything's gonna come undone because all the refugees are gonna pile into Walsina, and then they're gonna run out of, food in like 3 or 4 days, and then everyone's going to die. There'll be a civil war, you know, bad shit's gonna happen. And what I did not notice initially, but what I did in like retrospect, is that he's like his plot begins right here. You know, everything he does in this entire long ass trial sequence is just to set this up. You know, just to set up the twist at the end that I'll get into in a little bit. But anyway, the nobles all say, like, fuck that shit, that doesn't matter. What might happen is not what matters. You're here because you're hoarding Eren in violation of Clause 6 of the Humanity Charter that says you can't put your own gain above humanity's, which is fucking bullshit. Like, these motherfuckers are fucking doing that too. You know it. They're just like, their whole reasoning is to protect themselves. They don't give a rat's ass about humanity. What? No. I know that's like super obvious that's what's going on, but that's just a plot point, you know, characters being accused of, things that, like, characters accusing other characters of things that first character is doing is a big pet peeve of mine. Like, anytime I watch a lot of The Good Wife and The Good Fight, and anytime Mike Ristiva comes on, I'm like, fuck this motherfucker, right? Every fucking time. But that's more of a personal thing. And so, I think I mentioned it back when it was first brought up in episode 40, but I do really wish the Humanity Charter had been brought up, even in, like, passing before this. Like, I don't want a full, you know, detail of every clause of the Humanity Charter. I just want, like, an acknowledgement that it was a thing before it becomes a plot point. Like, this just seems a little weird and just kind of an excuse to execute Erwin, which, let's be honest, even just, you know, they didn't even need that, because if they had framed him for killing Demo, then then that's an excuse to execute, Erwin, right? But anyway, as that's going on, you know, Erwin seems to have lost, and in the last moment, a garrison member barges in while Rose has been breached. And, everyone freaks out. Though even then, like, in my notes, when I saw that scene, and I paused it to write my notes, I wrote out, like, supposedly. Because, like, that's just too convenient. Like, the noble should have been like, yeah, right. You think Walrose is gonna be breached right fucking now when we're about to execute the guy who told us that Walrose would be breached. And that Berthold and Reiner just happened to pop up at the exact right time and go about it in the exact same way they got rid of Shiganshina. Like, it was a little obviously fake. But, you know, if you're living in that world, I guess it does make sense that you would not really worry if it was fake and just, like, we gotta act now. And it's around this time. Well, after that, you know, the nobles are like, seal up Walsina, don't let any refugees in. You heard what Erwin said is going to happen, and he's right, that is what's going to happen. And around that time, I start to notice something. Something that turns out to be right by the end of the episode. Is that Fritz doesn't move. He's in the same fucking pose when Erwin has his trial, And when he finds out that half of his half of his subjects are about to get eaten, he doesn't give a shit. Like, all right, it makes the later reveal that he's just asleep, a bit more probable because he just does not fucking move. But I spent, this entire season thinking he was just a really stoic guy. But no, he just doesn't talk. He's fucking asleep. Alright. But anyway, the actual shit. So, Erwin gets... So the main noble guy is like, seal up Walsina, and the MPs are like, what the fuck? And at that point I thought, holy shit. Erwin's gonna make the MPs kill them. What better way to legitimize scout control than by having the MPs overthrow the nobles and leave Erwin in charge? But that's not what happens, because then, who shows up but the fucking judge guy from midway through season 1? Remember the guy who, decided what branch Eren would end up in? The one who, grudgingly decided to give him to Levi and the Scouts? Alright, so that was a random character to bring up. Though I do end up really liking him. As I mentioned last week with with Hitch and Marlowe, Attack on Titan is really good at making super minor characters feel important. And Judge Guy, I think Zachary is his name. Just kind of adds on to that a whole lot. And then, of course, we find out the whole thing was a trick. Surprise, surprise, it didn't go down like that. And it was all a scheme to get the nobles to break the Humanity Charter. What a fucking twist. Openly break the Humanity Charter. That was such a great moment. And then, the nobles were like, what the fuck? Pixis, you were in on this? And Pixis was like, well, I do agree with Erwin on some things, but, I forget the overall thing, but, if, y'all have held things together for so long, I'm sure y'all know what you're doing, but if you fucking condemn half of humanity, fuck off. I think the exact line, it's either Pixis or Zachary who gives it. I want to say it's Pixis just because I love Pixis a whole lot. Is if that's how you're gonna rule, I'm sure us in our ignorance could rule better than you with your wisdom any day. Leave it to Pixis to give a fire speech. One of my favorite moments in season 1 is his big, nearly episode-long speech at the end of the Trost arc. That's really, in my opinion, the greatest part of season 1. And, Pixis just hits it out of the park again here with another great speech. And to signify that Fritz is kind of up to something, Fritz is the only character who does not react to Pixis' speech. And if you cannot react to a Pixis speech, you cannot hear the Pixis speech, alright? Pixis gives great speeches. That's a fact. And so, of course, we find out that he was not just some stoic monarch. He was fucking asleep for a season. That's such a wild twist. I love it. I love that twist. Though it does leave me just a tad... So, throughout this whole thing, this is a bit more serious than the whole he's asleep bit. But throughout the whole, race is the true royal family, I've kind of been wondering, how the fuck do you fake a monarchy? What are the conditions that you have to fake a monarchy? The thing that makes a monarchy is that it's, that, the monarch is in power for life, and that the successor is based on the monarch's lineage. And sure, usurpations can happen and, all kinds of shit. But if someone usurps the previous king and establishes a dynasty, he's not a fake king. Eventually, I don't think that this King Fritz is the one who overthrowed the original king race or whatever. So at some point, the Fritz dynasty had to have been, I don't know, normalized, been validated. How is he a fake king? How? How is, like, I get that, you know, when they say he's a fake king, that would normally mean he's just a puppet for the nobles and he's not actually doing anything. But that's not what they mean. He's, you know, the illegitimate king. Like, I don't know, was the Fritz line getting the throne, you know, like, Rod's father was the one who got ousted? I don't know, it's such a weird concept. How do you fake a monarchy? But anyway, moving on. That's my little tangent. It doesn't really affect my thoughts. It kind of affects my thoughts on the series. It's a really weird thing. Faking a monarchy. You don't fake monarchies. That's not how monarchies work. Anyway. Not how monarchies work, y'all. If anyone tells you you can just fake a monarchy, tell them they're liars. And use this video as your evidence, please. But anyway, then we cut to the Levi squad, who hears about, you know, the coup working, and they all party, but good on Levi to recognize that nothing about this is over yet. They still have Kenny out there, they still have Eren and Historia missing, Rod's up to something suspicious, so great on Levi for that. And then we cut back to the capital, where, Erwin and Zach are setting up their new society, or their new, like, government, whatever. And Erwin has this whole, like, existential crisis where he's like, did we even really do anything good? Could the nobles have, like, actually helped humanity, or, like, kept humanity alive? And Zachary's just like, I don't fucking care. I fucking hated those bastards. My favorite part of Zachary in all this is, his line is, if you hadn't done this, I'm sure she would have gotten the shot at him before I kicked the bucket. Like, what a man. What a man. It's just, I just love seeing these characters. Like, there's always, you know, like, the hero, like, the Erwins and the, you know, the people who are always all like, what is the right thing to do? And then the people, I always love the characters like Zachary here. Just like, yeah, fuck that shit. I hated these bastards. Let them die. So that was a lot of fun. And then we get a bit of more race backstory. We find out that the day Wall Maria fell, supposedly, in some bandits, like, burned down the chapel where the Race family was praying, and Rod was the only survivor. And let's all be honest. At first, I was like, they're still trying to make Rod out to be some kind of tragic character, and it's not really working. But no, let's be honest. Rod's a fucking Titan shifter. That's what's going on. Because, like, Hanji makes mention of, you know, the chapel being destroyed and all that shit. And, like, Rod is a Titan shifter. He's about to eat Eren and get the coordinate or whatever the fuck that means. What the fuck? Why the fuck is it, like... So, as far as we know, the coordinate can only control Titans, and it's a really vague ability, you know? Eren, like, screams real loud and throws a punch, and a Titan, like, flies at an enemy. It's a really weird ability. What about that is a coordinate? Like, a coordinate is like a location, right? Throwing Titans at people is not a location. I want that displayed on the world. Throwing Titans at people is not a location. I don't know. It's late at night and I'm in a ranting mood. Anyway, we finally cut back to Eren. I'm looking at my notes. We have another rant coming right up, so you just wait your sorry ass there. And Eren doesn't seem like he's just having visions. It seems like he's actually dreaming himself as this girl, who I'm assuming is Rod's eldest daughter. And then Armin, right after that, we cut to Armin questioning who Eren ate to get his powers, which seems to imply that that Eren ate the daughter? I guess? It's weird, especially because so much of Eren's in the immediate aftermath of Walmaria falling is still kind of vague. But for one thing, so the way that would have to work then is that the same day Maria fell, Grisha would have had to find Eren and give him that serum, which does not turn him into a shifter. It turns him into a pure Titan. I think is how that would have to work. Because you saw Ymir in Season 2 get the same serum when she became a pure Titan. But all of this kind of leads to a question that kind of plagues the idea of Titan shifters from the get-go. Is that they don't make sense. Or, not Titan shifters as a whole, but this idea that Titan shifters become Titan shifters by being pure Titan to eat Titan shifters. That makes no sense. Because it states that to create a Titan shifter, you must already have a Titan shifter. And so, where did that Titan shifter come from? I mean, sure, maybe Titans awaken with powers every now and then, you know, like there was one Titan who could shift from a human to a Titan. But there had to have been at least, I want to say 6 Titan shifters, right? Because, like, 6 people at the beginning who had this power, naturally. Because if you eat someone, because, you know, it couldn't have, like, started in one person and then spread. Because if you eat someone, that person is dead. It cannot spread it to any more people. So we know there is, you know, Eren, and Reiner, Bertolt, Ymir, Annie, and the Beast Titan. So there are somehow 6 people who are just naturally shifters. Which does not add, which more implies that shifting is a power that sometimes occurs, and not Hanji's theory that eating a Titan shifter makes a pure Titan a Titan shifter. I don't know, it doesn't really make any sense to me. So I'm not really, like, I'm accepting that somehow what's going on here, but I'm still calling bullshit on it. It makes no sense. And then the episode ends with Historia staring at Eren all creepy-like, and then we get what is maybe the biggest twist of the episode, is in the next time preview, who would show up but Grisha Jaeger? Fucking finally. The man has been missing since episode 1. And we're, like, episode 1, which I will remind you, was 5 years ago now. He has been gone for 5 years. So, here's my theory. We are finally getting a clue about the goddamn basement. After all this time, we're gonna get an inkling of a hint about the basement. You just watch. It'll be right now. Next episode, maybe the episode after that, depending on how long in this little crystal cave thing. But we're gonna find out shit about the basement at long last. But before we get there, of course, Season 3 will end, and we'll have to wait until another and they're gonna go on a 5-year break this time. And in 2023, we will finally find out what happened in the basement after 10 years of wondering. That's my hypothesis. Wait till you find out I'm right. Anyway, ranting mood aside, in case you could not tell, I'm in a very ranting mood with this chapter. It's just because it's 2 in the morning right now, and I don't know. So anyway, this was, you know, a good episode. I'm very, like, I feel like most shows would have made, you know, overthrowing the government this big thing. And I kind of liked how Titan just kind of kept it low-key. You know, it's real. Titan's kind of a weird show like that. Like, all of its big moments, all the moments that should be really big, are all kind of small. You know, especially post-Season 1. You know, like, even in Season 1. Like, Season 1, the Annie reveal was kind of big, but even then, it still felt like the shift of Annie to good to evil, you know, or not really good to evil, but like, of hiding her identity to outing herself, still always felt kind of sudden to me when I first watched it. You know, her, like, weird reluctance to get into the tunnel, and Armin's insistence. I remember when I first watched it, that was, like, really weird to me. But then, like, in Season 2, we, of course, had the infamous, I'm the Armored Titan and Bertolt is the Colossal Titan, and was practically off-screen. Which, like, is certainly one way to handle your big plot twist. And then here, you know, the coup d'etat is also in this kind of really calm, you know, let's just do this, you have no chance, nobles. Fritz has been asleep the entire series, apparently. You know, it's just all calm. Though I imagine that sense of calm is going to go right out the fucking window. Now that we're in this little crystal place. But I have no idea what's going to happen there, other than someone's going to eat Eren. My money is on Rod, by the way. That I think I like the theory. I think I forgot to mention in this video. I got kind of too distracted by Eren ate the races, and I'm not really feeling that. I think Rod fucking did it. That's my theory. Rod killed his family for some fucking reason. So I think Rod's gonna eat Eren and become, you know, the noble's last chance at taking back control. But yeah, that's kind of my theory for what's gonna happen next week. I hope you all enjoyed this episode and the video. If you did, feel free to drop me a like, or subscribe, or whatever the fuck you want. I don't really care. And as always, people, keep kicking ass, and I'll see you in the future. Goodbye.